Salutations, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. V back with another casted game of Age of Empires 3, and we are on the frigid Arctic territories for casted game number 50. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe we did it, but here we are. Thank you so much for your support. That's all I'm going to say because I tend to ramble. Let's get into the player intros in the south of the map. Playing in the color blue as the French, we have Karak. Now, I actually watched a couple of his games before when I was with mhonpa, a fellow caster. I'll put a link to his channel in the description below. Go check him out. He's got great game knowledge, a lot more than me. But we were on his stream and we were casting a couple of games on the ladder, and Karak was a very, very good, but very, very aggressive French player. So we'll see if he is aggressive in this game, because his opponent in the north of the map, in the color red, also playing as the French, we have Lazarus Voss. And I'll just call him Lazarus. But from what I've been told by friends like Shake, also a very, very good player. And we actually watched these two play on mhonpa's stream, except it was Karak playing French and Lazarus playing Ottoman, and Karak was actually able to pull off the W. But new game, new civs, well, for Lazarus, and a new opportunity. Let's see what they are going to do. So, looks like Lazarus is sending the 3 CDB. Meanwhile, Karak also sending the 3 CDB, and now is the opportunity. I want to see what's different about their decks. So economic theory, very standard age 2, very standard age 3, and a couple of age 4 cards. Has thoroughbred in his deck and 14 skirm. I'm not so sure that's standard French, but other than that, pretty unusual. Meanwhile, also very, very standard, has the inclusion of wilderness warfare and not as many cards in age 4. So if I were to pick a deck, I would probably pick Lazarus's. But besides their different decks, both players starting very, very identically. We have a trading post on either side of the map. We'll see who goes for that middle TP. I think that'll be a spot of hot contention. Both collecting treasures, and it looks like we might have a treasure steal. Both explorers identical, and look at that. Karak gonna steal 120 food. You don't get a much better treasure steal than that, ladies and gentlemen. And now a duel on the snowy plains of Antarctica between two men who are wearing the same outfit. See, they're mad. They want to be the ones looking chic in this beige coat, and they don't like that their opponent wore the same thing, so they're out for vengeance. Oh, man. I don't know. I'm just so energized. I can't believe the fact we've done 50 of these, but very standard age ups for both of them. Looks like both of them going to be going with the quartermaster. Let me confirm that. I am watching this replay live, in case you were wondering. I actually had a different replay set, and it crapped out on me because that's the world we live in with Age of Empires 3. So I went to the free food party browser, and I was saved by this French mirror. So, hey, fate maybe does exist. But a market going down here for Karak, also same for Lazarus. Placer mines and hunting dogs. These two could not be any more identical in their builds so far, even getting an almost identical age up time. Let's see, Karak going to age probably a second sooner. We'll have to pay close attention. Picking up 40 XP as well. And let me try to call this as best I can. He's almost aged. Looks like he might age right at the 4-minute mark. Let's see. No, probably a little bit later. And 401 for Karak. And already aged for Lazarus, so slightly sooner. Not that that makes much of a difference, but hey. In mirrors like this, the small things count, right? Because you don't have the very drastic civ differences, right? You don't have different units, you don't have different economies, so every move you make in a mirror, as far as micro and build order, is going to be that much more important. But it looks like Lazarus going with the 4 CDB, followed by the 700 wood, so going very standard French, getting his steel traps in, and even getting a Hussar in queue, a very quick Hussar, I might add, and that's going to be out definitely before before the 6-minute mark. We'll see if he gets a full batch of 5. Meanwhile, Karak sending the 3 Hussar as his first shipment. Oh my goodness. And following it up with the 700 wood. That is very ballsy, seeing as he is putting down a barracks, so he's gonna time that with a batch of musk, and this might prove to be a good move. However, if these 3 Hussar, where are they? Oh, where'd the 3 Hussar go? I don't know where they went, but there they are. If these 3 Hussar and these 5 musk cannot do a significant amount of damage, then the economic boost of the 4 CDB is really going to play in Lazarus's favor, and he's even going to catch these 3 Hussar at a disadvantage, and it's going to be 4 versus 3, even using some really nice pull micro with his weakened cav there, and both trying to use their micro, but the numbers are just too far in Lazarus's favor, and he's going to escape with all 4 of his cav. Ladies and gentlemen, that is cav micro. Incredible. Like I said, Lazarus, when he is in shape, he's about a 2K ELO player. However, I think right now he's a bit rusty, so he's sitting around 1800, and Karak sitting at about 1700, high 1700, low 1800 as well. Now sending 4 CDB of his own. So a slight change in shipment, but because of that bad fight, we have to realize that Lazarus has had those 4 CDBs for an extra 30, 40, 50, 60 seconds, and that is an exponential amount of resources. So 16 vils for Karak, 21 vils for Lazarus, sending the 700 coin now, and because he did not send those units, everything in his build order is just going to be that much faster. And in a mirror, I'll say it again, I'll say it always, those kinds of things make a huge difference, more than they would in a non-mirror game. But now Karak, at least using these musketeers as proactively as he can, he's going to siege down this trading post, and I don't see anything coming out from Lazarus to oppose it. I actually think he's going to use that trading post as a way to buy time, get into age 3. Yep, the age 3 is up now, the exiled prince. He's going to get that quick age up, going with a second stable, so we'll see what he goes for here. We might see Dragoon Kerr, we might see Double Kerr, we might see Hussar play, get these upgraded to Veteran, though I doubt it. But it'll be interesting to see how Karak responds to this age up. Now, he has 5 more musks in queue, though, he has 5 more musks on the field and 3 more in queue, but these musketeers are going to soon be very, very obsolete. He does pick up the trading post, nice job by him, and even when you're down, even when you take losses like Karak did, props to him for continuing to use his military as best he can. And speaking of using your military, Lazarus trying to get a raid in with these 3 Hussar is going to lose one, but he did bell up those CDB for a good amount of time. Shipment for Karak, was it going to be 700 gold most likely? Let's see what he sends. Yes, 700 gold coming in for Karak. So age up is now in for Lazarus. We'll see what he follows up with. Going double goon, which against Karak's musket, I think is going to be very, very effective. And he... Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, sorry. For a second there, I thought Karak was an H3, but that is Lazarus's deck. And again, going with double goon, and if he layers that with a 2 Falconet shipment, we could see a really powerful timing push, but actually going to be sending 5 more goons of his own. So he's going to have a very mobile, very effective army here, and maybe he's going to try to raid some of these more extended hunts. He's going to pick up a Vil with these Hussar. And wow, still getting use out of those Hussar, even though they're very low on HP and not really going to be very effective against this squad of muskets. And there is a large squad of muskets. So for the time being, Karak is going to be able to defend off these dragoons. He has 20 musketeers, but you got to imagine he wants to get an age up in of his own. He's got 1,200 coin, 900 food, maybe even considering buying the rest of the food, trading it out for the coin he has. He does have a surplus, and getting that age in as soon as possible. Because the one advantage he has is he has claimed all 3 trading posts. He has the stagecoach upgrade, and if he can get into age 3 undamaged, he could really start to play that into his advantage. More dragoons coming out here for Lazarus, sticking with the very mobile army, which that might allow him to contest this trading post without having to take any damage of his own. He does now have a barracks out, 26 Vills versus the 24 of Carrack, so very even economies at this point. 5 skirms now on the table, and this is where Lazarus has to make a move, right? He has to do some lasting damage before Carrack can catch up. He's almost into H3, continuing to make muskets, and these are probably going to get the veteran upgrade and be quite powerful, especially against the Dragoons, but kiting with the skirmishers will be able to take those out, even though they are now veteran. And look at that, Carrack immediately slamming down 2 Falconets, not wasting time. And I think we are going to see a powerful Musk Falc push, which will actually do quite well against Lazarus if he's not able to sufficiently snipe off those Falconets with his Dragoons, though he does have a lot of Dragoons, and he has a decent amount of skirmishers, about 10, soon going to be 15, and sending 8, so he's going to have a big mass of skirmishers. So both armies kind of counter each other, but in different ways. So this is really going to come down to micro here. Even though it's a French mirror, we're seeing 2 very different approaches to the H3 armies, which is what I love about mirrors. Some people think they're boring. I don't, because you can play a Civ in so many different ways. So let's see what happens with Lazarus's armies. He might be making a second push on this other TP. Already reclaiming this one in the north of the map. Very smart, as he didn't have to pay for the stagecoach upgrade. Veteran Musks and the 2 Falcons are now barreling towards the base, but they're going to stop and they're going to take a detour. And if they can catch Lazarus in a nasty position, might be able to get off a couple of juicy volleys, even as the hill advantage. Know that I don't think that really matters much in AOE3, but still kind of cool. Gonna catch the skirmishers? No, very nice by Lazarus. He's gonna be able to kite some of these, and we have to remember that even though Carrack has the power advantage with the Falconets, the mobility advantage by far goes to Lazarus. He's gonna be able to stick, move, and kite. And if Carrack is not careful, he loses these Falconets needlessly. He's going to find himself in a very, very tough position, but I like what Lazarus is doing here. He's pulling back. He knows he doesn't need to take that fight. He wants to get a few more skirms, maybe even send 2 Falconets of his own. Yes, sending 2 Falcons. So it went from a pretty even matchup to once the 2 Falconets come out for Lazarus, it's going to be a very uneven matchup. So Carrack going to have to do some lasting damage here, and he's going to have to do it quick. More musketeers coming out from Carrack. No, Carrack making skirmishers of his own, sending the 8 skirms. So now we're starting to see both of the compositions sort of meld together. And both players are starting to kind of venture out of their base for resources. So this map is about to get a lot more contested. Trading post gonna go down for Lazarus once again. That poor trading slot just can't make up its mind what side it wants to be on. Running out of coin here, but now the 2 Falconets are out, so Lazarus has an advantage. He knows what his opponent has. His opponent doesn't know precisely what he has, but now going to take this engagement, maybe going to be able to snipe off one of these Falconets. Let's see, charging in with his Dragoons, getting in position with his Falcons, and the positioning in the micro here for Lazarus, certainly better than Carrack's right now, doing a lot of damage with his skirmishers, but now these muskets are going to try to brute down these Falconets, going to lose a lot of their HP from the skirms, and now both blue Falconets are down, and this looks like it's going to be a hard win for Lazarus. All of his units now counter the units of Carrack, and even though the skirmishers are on the way, lost a ton of his musketeers, and the 2 Falconets traded for each other, but a lot better value coming from the red French player there. Really nice fight. I think Lazarus just microed that really well, and I think Carrack got a little bit too greedy, thought that he could just muscle down those Falconets with his musks, which, yes, he was able to do, but that left his own Falcons vulnerable to the Dragoons. And now that both have a decent mass of skirmishers, we'll see what happens here, though the musketeers, even though they sort of counter the Dragoons are going to still be able to kind of stick and move. And let's check the skirmisher numbers here. We have 19 for Lazarus, and we have 11 for Carrack, though he is now producing from double racks. And I would argue that Carrack does have the better map control now as well, putting down a second town center. And Lazarus, what is he following up with? What has he got in his deck? He has sent both skirm shipments, sent the 5 goons, sent the 2 Falconets, and I think maybe a transition into Curse here would be really, really effective. He has 2 stables. He could get out nice batches of 10. He's got plenty of resources, though he does need to gather more coin and gather it quickly. Sending his last skirmisher shipment, 7 coming out now. Karak does not have 7 skirms. He has more upgrades in his deck, though he has not sent any yet. Has Lazarus sent any upgrades? Okay, neither player is sending any economic upgrades at the time, which I think makes sense, right? With the militaries being this close. But again, now that all of these villagers are starting to branch out, map control is going to be a big key part of this game. And we can see that Lazarus has a ton of exposed vills here out on the far side of the map. But now we are going to see an engagement. The skirms are going to be getting in at each other. We have 31 skirms for the red player. We have 24 for the blue player, but we also have the musketeer reinforcements. And we cannot forget about this big dragoon mass from Lazarus. And I think both of these players realize that it is go time. It is time for one player to claim the middle of the map, and whoever does is going to win as we go from the early game into the mid game. Let's see what happens here. Looks like Lazarus retreating, and he's got Kurz in queue. Or no, sorry, Karak's got Kurz in queue. But with this many dragoons, I wonder if that's the best play at the moment. However, I think Lazarus going Kurz would be really smart because he's got a ton of skirmishers from the opponent and just not a lot of dragoons of his own for Karak. But look at this, Lazarus now going double Kur. Oh my good, hey, a prediction was right. Sometimes I get them right, like one out of every 10. But we'll see. And this town center now going to be under threat. Now, Karak, the one thing that he can be happy about is that there's not actually a lot of siege potential in this army. And now look at the batch of goons and curs that are chasing down these skirmishers. But the goons are in reinforcement range. Gonna get an easy pick off of one of these curs. And we have to remember that a cuirassier is 300 resources a pop. So instantly killing what looks to be like 1,200 resources here from Karak. And a lot of his cavalry are engaging without infantry reinforcement. Now both armies are starting to catch up with each other, and with this double batch of curs coming out from Lazarus, this might be a great catch. There's not a lot of anti-cav here. There's just a handful of veteran muskets, and with the splash damage, we can see the catch here. Let's see it from Karak's point of view. He's about to get the double pincer. Oh, look at the cuirassiers coming in, the skirmishers coming in from the back, and the dragoons trying to seal off the net. The Kurs having to try to get through the muskets, taking a lot of melee damage, but I think there's going to be enough there to brute force him down. And now he's into the cookie jar. Ladies and gentlemen, these skirms are going to start dropping like flies. We have 2 Kurs doing a little right off here, but that doesn't matter. There's still 4 Kurs remaining, a big batch of skirmishers, enough dragoons, and that is going to be a nice cleanup for Lazarus. And that tech switch to Kurs proved to be invaluable. That's the game. Karak resigns. The French mirror is over. And the victory goes to Lazarus. And again, very, very tight builds from both players. Very, very close and very, very similar in a lot of ways. But there were a couple of decisions there that I think really turned the ball into Lazarus's court. I think starting with 4 CDB instead of 3 Hussar, getting that really good fight with his starting Hussar against that shipment from Karak, and then that switch to Kurs at the right time was really, really good for him. But let's look at this in more detail. Guys, follow me to the post game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in the post game, and wow, what a tight race when it comes to resources. Less than 1,000 resources difference between our 2 players. So very, very even economies and very, very even militaries as well. 106 to 95. But then we look at units killed and we can start to see where some of the differences are showing up. Only 66 kills for Karak, 107 kills for Lazarus, most of those coming in that final cleanup of Karak's army. And if we go to the villager count here, this is, I think, where a huge part of the game was won for Lazarus. Look at this spike in vills from 14 to 18. Meanwhile, Karak only at 13. I know that seems small, 4 vills, right? But at that point in the game, at the 4-minute mark, 4 vills is a huge advantage. And he kept that advantage for most of the game, ending with about 38 to only 34 for Karak, though he did get raided. But by the time that raid happened, he had won the fight, he had won the game. But guys, episode number 50, French Mirror, I had to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be back next week with a couple more games. Until then, have a great day, have a great life. See you later.